Here we are. Today marks the beginning of the fourth week of Advent, and the traditional theme of this final week before Christmas is spiritual love. Not the love that you need to earn, but the love that you can rest in. The love that doesn't take attendance or keep score. The love that is already here, beneath the noise, steady as your breath. Before we dive in, let's look back at the journey we've been on this Advent season. And if you haven't listened to the last 3 episodes yet, they're waiting for you. We began on the first Sunday of Advent with the theme of hope. Hope as radical trust when we can't see the way, loosening our grip on outcomes. Then we journeyed into the second Sunday of Advent with peace, the still point within, stepping out of reactivity and into presence. Last Sunday, week 3 of Advent, we explored joy, a joy that is relational and embodied, a joy that's like a quiet current underneath it all, even when life is messy. And now, this Sunday, we enter the fourth and final week of Advent. And our theme is love, the ground that holds when joy rises and falls. Joy feels and love abides. We're going to explore love as the ground of being, the presence that abides whether or not you feel joyful today. Love is the spacious center that we can rest in when feelings shift and circumstances change. This is where Advent has been leading us all along, from trusting with hope, to resting with peace, to experiencing with joy, and now into abiding love. Across the contemplative tradition, love has been described as more than an emotion that we chase. Love is the very depth structure of reality. The 20th century theologian Paul Tillich called God the ground of being. God is love. God is the ground of all being, not a being out there, but the depth that gives everything its life and its sense of aliveness. When you meet that ground that is God, that is love, with an earnest desire to connect with the holy, then it will meet you in awe, and the encounter inspires you to reorder your life around what truly matters. Karl Rahner said something similar in a different way. He said that grace is God's self-communication. The holy giving itself into the depths of the human experience before we achieve, before we earn, or even notice it. And in that view, the most basic layer of you is already embraced by love. And the spiritual life is learning to align with the love that's giving itself to you now. Let's zoom out to a cosmic lens. The theologian Pierre Teilhard de Chardin described love as the energy of union and evolution's deep tendency toward communion. It's the driving force of a world coming together. The contemporary theologian, Ilia Delio, develops this idea. She says that love is at the heart of the cosmos. It is an energetic power of unification that draws life towards deeper wholeness. In other words, love is what joins, what heals, what makes people more truly themselves. And it's not an add-on. It's actually an energy that's baked right into the fabric of the universe. And if that's true, then love is not a mood to manufacture. It's not simply an emotional experience we have toward another person. It's the ontological hospitality that's holding us right now. On days where joy is bright, and on days where joy is barely a pilot light. The mystics knew this well. Julian of Norwich names the ultimate meaning of reality as love, and only love. John of the Cross insists that mature union grows precisely when the feeling recedes and we learn to abide to invisible love, trusting that love is beyond sensation. So as we begin this final week of Advent, receive this simple reframe. You don't have to rise up to earn love. You can lean back, trusting it's already there. This is why Advent starts by making room, so what already holds us can be felt again. And that's where we're going with this today. Not toward a love you must deserve, but toward the love that is already here. You're listening to the Holy Rebels podcast, Ancient Wisdom for Modern Mystics. I'm Nina Hirlaender, Franciscan sister, spiritual director, and founder of Dancing Spirit Tours. If you're a spiritual seeker or a mystic in the making, you're in the right place. Let's get started. I want to name an unhelpful core belief that so many of us have internalized. It's this: if I'm good, then I'll be loved. If I perform, if I please, if I don't mess up, then I belong. Let's call that kind of if-then dynamic, if-then spirituality. It sneaks into faith, into families, and even into our inner monologue. And it keeps love away. So here's the reframe I want to offer you today. Love is not a wage. It is given. We have a word for this in mystical theology. It's called grace. Grace is God's self-gift. It's the presence that comes toward you in ordinary life without you having to earn anything. Karl Rahner calls this the mysticism of everyday life. The holy presses into the daily, darkness and light alike, because all of us are already touched by God's self-communication. That is, unconditional love. So when that if-then voice gets loud, try this counter story. Say to yourself, love precedes my doing anything. Love precedes my doing anything. Because your identity is beloved, and your actions can flow from that rather than for it. If you were with me last week, you'll remember that we spoke about spiritual joy. We named how the nervous system gets shaped by hypervigilance, by exhaustion, by scarcity, distrust, and inhibition. When your body has learned to scan for threat, then softening enough to receive love can actually feel dangerous. When you're burnt out, there's no sponge left to absorb goodness. Scarcity says there's never enough, so love must be rationed. None of this is your moral failure. It's your body trying to keep you safe. Scarcity says there's never enough, so love must be rationed. None of this is your moral failure. It's your body trying to keep you safe. So today, we're letting love meet you where you actually are, not where you think you should be. And that is part of spiritual freedom. This whole conversation begs the question, how did we end up here? Where did if-then thinking and earning love come from? Historically, a lot of Western theology was organized around the doctrine of original sin, the claim that all humans participate in a wounded condition that traces back to the primordial fall. St. Augustine gave this idea its basic framework, but later the traditions added layers to it in different ways that shape original sin into its current doctrine, which is often an unhelpful, stifling worldview that leaves people feeling like they are a problem to be solved, or that they are fundamentally broken. And that's terrible. And it's a reduced interpretation of Augustine's work that has been twisted and propagated over centuries by unskilled preachers. Let's try our best to set aside the doctrine of original sin and this ridiculous concept of earning love, because there is a deeper current in the mystical tradition that helps us move from fear to freedom. You can picture this shift in 3 internal soul movements. The first movement is this. Think of everyday life. Emails, dishes, the walk to your car, whatever you're doing right now. Grace is God's self-gift showing up right here. Not later, not after you've been impressive, just right here as you are. Spirituality isn't about striving to reach love. It's noticing how love is already leaning toward you in the ordinary, and then simply allowing yourself to feel it. The second movement from fear to freedom is this. Imagine the story that runs deeper than your failures. Some theologians call this original blessing or original grace. It's a primal yes underneath everything. The sense that existence itself is given, not earned. Now, I know this language can get abstract, so let's keep it practical. If grace precedes woundedness, then you don't have to start your day proving you're right to be here. You can begin from grace, even as you work through your challenges, your hurts, and your failures. What would your life be like if you started your day from grace, feeling loved, rather than not enoughness? And the third movement from fear to freedom is very Franciscan. It's this. The nearness of the holy is love's own desire to be close to you. Love is primary. Love is the plan. There's no catch. The movement of reality is toward union. It's toward a deeper togetherness. And that means your life is not a test that you're doomed to fail. It's a gift that you're invited to trust. So when you hear that old if-then script, if I'm good, then I'll be loved, then let these 3 movements answer back. 1, love is already here, in the ordinary. 2, grace comes before woundedness. And 3, love's nearness is the point, not a bonus, not a fix. Love is unconditional, and it's what you're made of. So this is how we shift from fear management into freedom. Identity first, action second. And from there, the doing can actually become joyful because it's flowing out of who you know you are, beloved, instead of trying to buy your way into goodness with your actions, which is an illusion. If you let fear run the show, then spirituality becomes threat management. Keep the rules, appease the deity, stay small, don't get it wrong. But if you believe that love is a given, then something inside you can unclench. You stop bargaining and start belonging. From that belonging, personal responsibility becomes more clear. You act with integrity because you are beloved, not to secure belovedness. Now let's gently compare the doctrine of original sin and original grace. The original sin lens underscores the universality of woundedness and the need for healing. Now, this lens can be useful in cases where we're needing to be honest with ourselves about our capacity to do harm, as long as you don't feel a crippling shame that stops you from change. Now, by contrast, and more foundationally necessary, is the cosmic law of original grace, which underscores that the deeper truth underneath our woundedness, underneath our capacity for harm, the deeper truth is given goodness and a call to union. Original grace disarms fear and awakens responsibility that's rooted in your belovedness. Whatever your background or previous encounters with these 2 doctrines, I invite you to lean on this. Before anything else, you are a gift, given to the world by a larger love. Let's try grounding this reframe in an exercise so that you can see what this looks like in the moment when you're triggered, when you're stuck in the if-then mentality. Bring to mind one example of that old bargaining for love that we all know too well. Whatever your version of it, fill in the blank. If I'm blank enough, then I'll be loved. Maybe it's productive. If I'm productive enough, then I'll be loved. If I'm pleasing enough, then I'll be loved. If I'm perfect enough, kind enough, calm enough, smart enough, thin enough. Fill in your blank. Just notice it. No judgment. If I'm blank enough, then I'll be loved. Got it? Good. Now we're going to rewrite that script from the inside out. Say to yourself, because I am beloved, I can blank. Finish the sentence with something real and simple that counters your belief about not enoughness. For me, I often experience an internal pressure to be more productive. So not enoughness sometimes shows up for me as, if I'm productive enough, then I'll be loved. So turning this around, I can say to myself, because I am beloved, I can work with clarity and rest when I need to. What is the countering script for you? If you struggle with being a people pleaser, maybe your counter script could be, because I am beloved, I can tell the truth kindly, even if not everyone approves. If you struggle with perfectionism, maybe your script could be, because I am beloved, I can do my best and leave room for imperfection. If you struggle with anxiety, maybe your script could be, because I am beloved, I can take the next right step and let the rest unfold. If you struggle with body image, maybe your script could be, because I am beloved, I can nourish my body, move with kindness, and live in it today. If you struggle with comparison, maybe you could say, because I am beloved, I can celebrate others and stay faithful to my own path. If you struggle with boundaries or overgiving, you could say to yourself, because I am beloved, I can say no with love and guard what is mine to steward. These are just examples. You can write down any of these if they're helpful to you, or come up with your own. When you find one or two that really land for you, then I invite you to check in with the sensations of your body. How is your nervous system responding to this new script? What do you notice? What do you notice in your breath, in your shoulders, in your belly? If a little tension spikes, that's normal, because your nervous system is learning that love without earning it is actually safe. Learning takes time. We're not in a hurry. Come with me to a mountain village in Italy, a little place called Greccio. It's the winter of 1223. Francis of Assisi has a revolutionary idea. He decides to bring to life the nativity scene in a way that people can see and touch. Not a lecture, but a real encounter. It's the first ever nativity scene. That's right, Francis invented the tradition that we now repeat year after year. So picture the hillside of Greccio. There's a long, winding path through the forest to the top. Caves on the side of the mountain open like dark mouths in the rock. Villagers climb the path with their torches, breath-making clouds in the night. There's a shallow little grotto, and inside, a rough manger that Francis put together. He asked one of the villagers to bring an ox, and another villager to bring a small donkey. candles throw honey-colored light on faces. You can see old hands, young eyes, simple wonder. A priest will celebrate Mass over the manger to mark the bond between divine nearness and ordinary matter. This is the very first live nativity, staged here in Greccio, Italy. Now, let's pause the scene for a moment and notice what Francis is doing. He is offering a theatrical staging of a theological truth, that love comes down into the ordinary, into the manger, straw, breath, animals, bodies, bread, relationship. The sacred is not remote. It grounds and inhabits the concrete world. And if this all sounds too churchy, just notice how broad this claim really is. There's a 15th century German mystic named Meister Eckhart, and he says that the deepest spiritual event is not far away, not long ago. It's happening right now. He says, "What good is it to me if Mary gave birth to the Son of God 1400 years ago, and I do not also give birth to the Son of God in my soul?" He's naming a truth Greccio embodies. Love isn't just an idea to admire. It's something that takes flesh in us. Jesus' birth in the manger is a picture of a birth in your heart. Love becoming local, here, today, in the interior manger of your life. Centuries later, in the 1950s, the great American mystic Thomas Merton helps us feel why all of this matters. He writes, "At the center of our being is a point of nothingness, a pure diamond blazing with the invisible light of heaven. It is in everyone." If that's true, and I believe it is, then Greccio is like a mirror held up to our own depths. The light we're craning to see outside is also glowing within. Incarnation, in this understanding, means the ground of reality gives itself to you, quietly, steadily, in your everyday, and your task is to receive it. Meister Eckhart presses the point further. He says, "The ground of the soul and the ground of God are one ground." Now that sounds abstract until you watch a neighbor hand another neighbor a candle and the whole cave brightens. The more we allow love to be born in us, the less distance we feel between the holy and the ordinary, between the there and the here. The ground is one. One bread, one breath, one body. Nothing is outside of love's reach. And Thomas Merton goes further. He says, "Love is our true destiny. We do not find the meaning of life by ourselves alone. We find it in each other." In other words, the test of any mystical claim is togetherness. If love incarnates, it will show up between us. It will show up in how we listen to each other, how we share a meal, how we forgive, how we protect the vulnerable, how we let ourselves be seen and changed. How is love being born in you right now? Where can you practice nearness instead of distance? Maybe you're wondering, what about the days I can't feel any of this? My prayer life is dry, joy is thin, love seems so far away. Well, this, my friend, is where the mystics become your companions. Sometimes the spiritual life really does feel barren and dry and empty, like you're showing up, but there's nothing there. The 16th century Spanish mystic Ignatius of Loyola has a name for this experience: desolation. It's a way that our senses are gently weaned off the spiritual sugar of a spiritual experience or a mystical high, so that a deeper trust and reliance can grow. One of the benefits of a season of spiritual dryness or boredom is that it loosens your dependence on the good feelings, on the surface tingles of spirituality, so that you grow less attached to chasing highs and more anchored in God itself. If you're in a season of spiritual dryness right now, you're not failing. You might actually be graduating into a steadier love. Be patient. Don't believe the low day narrative that says it'll always be like this. It won't. Love allows a dry patch in order to challenge you and mature your devotion to a spirituality that doesn't rely on feelings, but on a deeper trust in your heart. Okay, we've talked about love as something you don't have to earn. So how do you live that in real time with real people? Research shows that both giving and receiving support improve well-being in relationships. Many of us are more comfortable giving than receiving. We default to "I owe you" in the moment when someone helps us. If this sounds familiar, let's practice a different reflex. This week, when someone offers help or kindness, just say thank you and stop there. Don't wave it off. Don't rush to even the score. Simply accept the help and say thank you. And afterward, do a 10-second body scan. Just check your jaw, your shoulders, your chest, your stomach. Notice any tension or urge to give back to relieve the discomfort. Name it, take a breath, and let it pass. On the other hand, if you find it easier to receive but harder to give, here's your challenge. Choose one specific act of care this week. Pay for someone's coffee. Reply to a message you've been avoiding. Take a task off a coworker's plate. Cook for a friend. And do it without tracking what comes next. And then ask yourself, how did it feel to give without a mental invoice? What, if anything, made it hard? So, the first exercise is about receiving without repayment. And the second exercise is about giving without resentment. And the third exercise is about boundaries. Boundaries protect love. Unearned love is not the same as saying yes to everything. When your boundaries improve, your capacity to love grows. So saying no to a request, even though it looks like you're rejecting someone, you're actually saying yes to your own limits, to your energy, to your integrity. And that's not selfish. It's stewardship. If you keep pouring from an empty cup, you'll give poorly and eventually feel resentful. If you want to strengthen your boundaries this week, try this. First, spot the leak. Name one place where you're over-functioning or feeling resentful. And be specific. A relationship, a task, a time of day. Spot the leak. And then, make a 2-column list in your journal or in your notes app on your phone. One column says, here's what I can do, and the other column says, here's what I can't do. And fill it out in plain language. This helps you discover your actual limits. Most of us are less familiar with our boundaries than we think we are. Now, choose one clear sentence that you can say out loud when needed. I can help on Tuesdays for 30 minutes. I can't take this on tonight. I can listen, but I can't help you fix this. Make sure you communicate your boundaries calmly. No long explanations. Repeat your sentence if pressured. Most importantly, follow through on what you declared your boundaries to be. Boundaries keep relationships honest and sustainable. They allow you to give real love, not exhausted love. Across the centuries, Advent has held a double focus, a remembering of the first arrival and a longing for the fullness still to come. A season of preparation and hope. It's about clearing space so the heart is ready to receive love. Along the way, the Advent tradition gives us symbolic markers to awaken the soul in the form of an Advent wreath. Each week has a theme represented by a candle. The 4 weeks are hope, peace, joy, and love, and they create a brighter light as we draw near to Christmas. Hope teaches us to trust, even when the path isn't clear. Peace teaches us to rest at the still point within. Joy teaches us to taste the goodness of love in the middle of real life. And love abides unconditionally. It holds steady because that is your birthright. Trusting, resting, tasting, abiding. This year, Francis of Assisi walked beside us on our Advent journey because he lived his spirituality viscerally and incarnationally. Feet on the ground, hands in the work, heart wide open to wonder. Francis teaches us that love becomes real when it's embodied. And that is exactly what Advent asks now that we're nearing Christmas. Let the nearness of love take shape in your body, in your kitchen, in your neighborhood, in your yeses and in your no. Now, if you want to go deeper into this path, I would love to meet you in Italy. We're hosting a pilgrimage this year called Assisi Pilgrimage of Peace. This is a focused immersion in Franciscan spirituality and the mystical journey, and you can learn more at dancingspirittours.com. Okay, now we close our Advent journey, and I would like to share a prayer with you by the Jesuit Pietro Arrupe. This is a simple way to examine what motivates you and what decides your direction. You're welcome to repeat these words to yourself or just let them wash over you. Nothing is more practical than finding God. That is, than falling in love in a quite absolute, final way. What you are in love with, what seizes your imagination, will affect everything. It will decide what will get you out of bed in the morning, what you do with your evenings, how you spend your weekends, what you read, whom you know, what breaks your heart, and what amazes you with joy and gratitude. Fall in love, stay in love, and it will decide everything. Amen. This brings us to the end of our Advent series. Thank you so much for walking the path of hope, peace, joy, and love with me. I'll see you in the new year with more mystical theology, deeper dives into lived prayer, spiritual embodiment, and the wisdom of the mystics. Merry Christmas, and as always, trust the mystic within you.